People of Reddit who knew celebrities before they were famous, how different do they act now? I went to high school with Sandra Oh. She was funny, dynamic, smart, outgoing, and very into drama. In one school play, she played what I will call sort of a mime character. She didn't have lines but was still a big part of the action, commenting on what was going on through her actions. Anyhow, in one scene as she was exiting the stage she banged her head on one of the props. You could hear the loud bang but she was a pro and just carried on. It has been great to see her have such success, and I love that she has kept in touch with her close friends from high school. You can spot them at awards shows sometimes. My grandpa, Rip, owned a grocery store in Miami in the late 70s. Wesley Snipes and his friends once stole some candy from his store and when he caught them he let them have it. Since then Wesley and his friends were regulars. Once, Wesley left his bike in front of the store and it got stolen. Was a pretty bad area. My grandpa gave him his old bike that he kept in the back of the store. My uncle took over in 2001 when my grandpa died. In 2007 he came back to the store while my uncle and cousin were there, to ask about my grandpa. My uncle said they talked for a little over an hour about how my grandpa treated him like a son. When he found out my grandpa passed he felt guilty he didn't visit sooner. He embraced my uncle and cousin and left. My uncle said he told him they plan on having the building repainted while they talked. About a week later a crew of painters arrived and told my uncle they were already paid to have the building repainted. Such a genuine dude. Edit. Sorry I haven't been able to reply to everyone, but thank you guys so much for love. Even though he's often portrayed negatively, glad to see that people still try to find the best in us, even it's a small gesture. Heavy black heart. I was local production contact on Hugh Jackman's touring theatre production where he sang his favorite numbers from various musicals. Usually when a show comes in with big-name stars, the star usually has a bunch of assistants and they do the job they are paid to do and that's it. The actor come on stage when needed then back to their dressing room and if you need anything or if they need anything you talk to the assistant. Prior to the first performance, I am on stage dealing with a few little issues, trying to stay on schedule when Mr. Jackman walks out on stage and my first thought was that he was going to be angry that we have kept him waiting to do his sound check. Instead he walks directly over to me, introduces himself, asks me my name and asks a couple of questions and doesn't even mention the delays. So we spoke for a few minutes and then he went around and introduced himself to more of the local crew. I was a little blown away by meeting him as I am a fan and thought that was really cool of him. Fast forward a week and I am backstage after the performance and I bump into Mr. Jackman in the hall. I say hi but don't want to bother him but he stops me. He remembers my name, after meeting 100s of people that week, and asks a few questions that related to our first conversation. Here's the thing though. The guy just did a 2-hour performance and instead of just politely returning my greeting he stopped and talked for a few moments with no false sincerity. To this day I am still blown away by how genuinely nice he was and always wondered what he was like before he became famous. He would also spend a huge amount of time after the show signing autographs and answering questions at stage door. I went to high school with Ruffalo. He was nice. He was one of those thespians. Our high school had an acting group that challenged the students to get out of their shell and do things in front of strangers like introducing yourself as the wild fairy of the woods and presenting them with a flower. We didn't talk much, but like I said, he was a good guy. His son went to school right by where I live and someone I know's brother was one of his teachers. Apparently Mark is still a really down-to-earth, good guy from their interactions at parent-teacher conferences and graduation. I went to school with Rupert Grint, Ron Weasley from Harry Potter. I was into acting too, so we had done a few school plays together. He was really nice, very chill, a good laugh. I haven't seen him since school days, but he kept coming to classes whenever he wasn't filming, was always happy to chat about the movies. Sometimes he'd need a little break from so many people wanting to talk, and would come and hang out in the library, and honestly, you'd never know he was in the biggest film series at the time. Honestly, I think a lot of these answers boil down to if they want fame or not. Rupert loved what he was doing, but didn't care about being famous and having people kiss his arse. Just a nice normal kid. He used to live in a town not too far from me. Everyone seemed to think he was a recluse and a bit of a moody prick, but I think, like you said, it can be tiring having people come up to you all the time, and he probably reasonably wanted some quiet for himself. A bit of the casting was done not far from where I grew up, the Weasley twins and Draco. My sister's claim to fame was that she once sat at a table in school that Tom Felton, Draco, had scratched his name into. I live in the town where Dolly Parton grew up, and practically everyone above the age of 50 who grew up here claims to either be a distant relative of Dolly's, or they claim to know her in some way. Everyone has their story of the time they met Dolly. It's pretty obvious, but regardless of who you talk to, Dolly has always been sweet and generous, but everything has simply grown exponentially due to her fame. Examples are the millions of books she gives out for free to children around the globe each month, or how she gave out $10,000 cash to many of my close friends after their houses burned in a fire a couple years back. Thousands of people are employed here and work for one of the businesses she owns, and it's a tad strange to see when you walk in, but the birthing center at the local hospital is funded by and named after her. I honestly can't think of one person I know who doesn't like her. Dolly's heart has only gotten bigger because of fame.